Good morning. Welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. The Green Brigade finally put out a statement last night following the suspension update by Celtic the other evening. Following a 5th month and 32 match suspension, Celtic FC has finally lifted the unjustified and unfair suspension of 250 supporters. In doing so, all affected supporters will receive a pro rata refund for matches missed and will be credited with away points that would have otherwise have occurred. We believe this is vindication that there was no basis for the suspensions. While we are naturally pleased to be officially returning to Celtic matches, we will not forget the experience of recent months and the personal impact it has had on supporters. There remains a deep structural and cultural concerns within the club. We must be robustly addressed to avoid similar widespread supporter breakdowns which have plagued this season. It remains our expectation that all Celtic supporters, including the Green Brigade, must be treated fairly, proportionately, and with respect by the club. Its stewards, police officers, and particularly on the footprint of Celtic Park. We are satisfied that the conditions on the lawful support expression and conduct towards police officers has been dropped, thus proving them to be wholly inappropriate. It then goes on to say, for 20 years, it has been the Celtic support that has funded and fueled the Green Brigade. Your support over recent months, particularly by sharing match tickets to circumvent the suspensions, has been invaluable. In particular, we would like to thank the Celtic Fans Collective for its consistency, advocacy, and the boys for its unwavering solidarity. In spite of the board, Celtic still has a fighting chance of salvaging this season. We are committed and relishing the prospect of a return to Celtic Park to get behind the team. This responsibility extends beyond the Green Brigade, though. Everyone has their own particular part to play. No part is too great or too small. No one is too old or too young to do something. Recommendations to Celtic FC in the short term: full refunds for all matches missed by affected supporters, allocation of away points for fixtures supporters would have otherwise have attended, advance visibility of stewarding and policing plans for the North Curve, a consistent and visible fans liaison officer within the North Curve. I thought that John Paul Taylor had a seat at the top end of the North Curve. We used to anyway. We used to have a seat up there. A policing approach that is proportionate with presence limited to circumstances where it is strictly necessary. A formal apology to supporters for the manner in which this situation has been handled. Well, that's never going to happen. In the medium term, the establishment of a democratically elected fan advisory board and a transparent, meaningful supporter engagement framework. The introduction of a fair, transparent, proportionate disciplinary process for supporters. Expansion of the SLO team, including a dedicated role focused on engagement with ultras groups. Consideration of grouping the Green Brigade and the boys together for the 26-27 season. Exploration of a goal end safe. That's never going to happen. It's this, the safe standing section behind the goals is not going to happen. I mean, I think that there are far too many people that have sat in that end since the stadium was built and expecting them to move. I mean, the boys used to sit in beside the Green Brigade years ago. We'll not go into the politics of what happened back then, but I mean, everyone that's involved knows what happened. And you know, it would mean people that currently sit. For me, it means that people that currently sit in the North Curve would have to lose tickets, and that's not going to happen, is it? I mean, what they're trying to do is they're trying to force upon Celtic to increase the standing section, which has become over the season sort of ghost town, hasn't it? It's great to have them back. but making demands on the club like that straight away, yeah, shows that they're still putting up a fight. Glad to see them back, and we move on. The Green Brigade updated suspensions, all suspensions lifted, pro rata refunds and away points credits, no inappropriate police conditions, a series of short-term and medium-term recommendations to close this episode and address deep culture concerns. Here's a thought then. If Celtic do come out and say, we got it wrong, we regret the circumstances. It's not a full out an apology, but they do admit that there were some short givens in the actions of the club over the last 32 matches that they were banned from. And then say that John Paul Taylor is told that, right, you're sitting in Celtic Park, you deal with them on an ongoing basis, kicks off that. Is that enough? Is that enough? And then say they do say them, okay, right, we'll give you a refund on some of the matches that you missed at Celtic Park. Is that enough to stop the anti-board protests? Or will the Celtic Fans Collective just go over and above the Green Brigade and continue it? Because let's face it was the Green Brigade that kind of started all this off. So this opens up a lot more conversations within the fan base. There's a big chunk of the fan base that have decided that they're no longer part of the Celtic Fans Collective, and it's an interesting one. We would all like for this to sort of go away, but does this mean that if they agree to that, is the campaign to get rid of Nicholson and Chris Mackay just gone? And then if it's the case, well, what bloody use was it? That's an interesting one. Anyway, we digress because there is other Celtic news this morning. There's a Celtic player who is actually on loan, but he's turning in a little bit of a goal-scoring machine. Now, I know that he wasn't fancied by a lot of Celtic supporters, but the fact that this is this statement before I say the player, you've probably guessed who it is already. He's thinking about improving week on week. He wants to give everything to the club until the end of the season. I want every performance to get better and to help the squad. And playing for Celtic, you have to relish those big days. They're really big days. It's win or bust. In the last few games, against some great sides, now it's time to step up and show why I've been brought to the club along with the other lads. I've played in Europe this season. I regularly started at Celtic, but I am currently at Bolton. Yes, it's Johnny Kenny. He says that the experience north of the border for the club fighting on all fronts and massive crowds and fighting for silverware has prepared him for the fight ahead. He loves playing football and he's been scoring a few goals. Now, when you look at the stats for Johnny Kenny, did Celtic do the right thing in putting Johnny Kenny out on loan? He's had 10 starts and he's scored 3 goals. Not a fantastic return, but it gives him 9 goals for the season. Now, that was the same number of goals. Now, remember, he's not a number one striker. He was put as number one striker at Celtic due to he was never going to be number one striker. He wasn't meant to be at Celtic this year. He was meant to be out on loan this year. We have to take everything into consideration when we're thinking about Johnny. Now, I know a lot of people are going to jump on and say, like, Johnny Kenny's not Celtic standard. He's only 22-year-old. So he had a lot of pressure put on him. If he'd scored 9 goals at Celtic, would Celtic have put him out on loan? A lot of people are saying no. But when you look at the fact that it's been the wingers, it's the supply to the strikers that's really been lacking this year, hasn't it? He is an old-fashioned 6-yard box type of striker. He is. I mean, it was said by Brendan Rodgers that you get the ball 25, give him the ball 25 yards out, and he's the best at scoring goals at Celtic. The issue is he wasn't getting the ball 25 yards out, was he? He was getting dragged about all over the place because Celtic were playing absolutely rank rotten. So Johnny Kenny will come back to the club in the summer. Will he be given a chance by the Celtic supporters in the summer and moving forward, or will he just go down the road as some other Celtic players that have been in and around the periphery of the club for a while, went out on loan? There was a young Scottish winger that we could think of that Brendan Rodgers said he was one of the best wingers that he's ever had and ever coached, and he's left Celtic and he's doing quite well, allegedly. Can Johnny Kenny come back to Celtic? He can play as centre forward. He can play as an attacking midfield player behind the striker. Maybe we were playing Johnny Kenny in the wrong position because we are lacking that little bit. I mean, you could say that you've got Benji Negrin in that attacking midfield role behind the striker that can do stuff. Maybe that was Johnny Kenny's favourite position. Maybe that was his best position. Do you know, maybe we were too hard on him, but he's only 22-year-old. People say, well, that's not young. He should be producing. There was a lot of pressure put on him. When we go back to the end of last season, John Kennedy said in a press conference, or was it Brendan? It was either John Kennedy or Brendan Rodgers said, we're unsure about what to do with Johnny Kenny next season. Whether we keep him at Celtic, get him some game time, try and progress him, or we put him out on loan for a season to give him the game time. Now, he's excelling with game time. That we can all agree on. He's absolutely excelling when getting a game in week out. The issue with Celtic was that, you know, he would get taken off and Dies Maida would be put in his place. You could say that the consistency maybe wasn't there from him as a player. So tell me your thoughts in the comments section. The referee this weekend will be Duncan Nicholson, Frank Connor and Scott Anderson on the lines. John Beaton on VAR alongside Duncan Williams. John Beaton on VAR. What could go wrong with that? Every single decision that Celtic get this weekend exactly will go to VAR because he'll be sitting on the back. Anyways, just a quick one this morning. Thank you for watching this. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. We're on the cusp of hitting a new target. And I was amazed with last night, actually. I was looking at some of the stats. That around about, there's like 40,000 people individuals have watched this channel in the last 28 days. 48,000 different people. Imagine if they all subscribed to the channel. We'd be way up there. Anyway, on that note, have an absolutely fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are all around the world.